Israel's Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu just visited the White House for the purpose of hammering out a full end to the war in Gaza. The Trump team had everything set up for success in this effort and seemed confident that they were going to be able to announce a deal, possibly today. And at first, everything seemed like it was going according to plan. Then, with no explanation, Bibi got a call back for a private, unplanned meeting with Trump. Then Steve Witkoff, the American envoy to the Middle East, canceled his flight to meet with Hamas in Doha, and the Israeli team quietly left the Blair House with no media coverage. What on earth is going on? Before we get into what went wrong and why everybody is being so secretive about it, let's talk about what went right. Bibi Netanyahu flew to the States on Monday to meet with the Trump team in Washington, D.C. The stated goal of this visit was, again, to hammer out a ceasefire deal in Gaza. President Trump was very clear that he wanted to see a deal reached very soon.
I want the people of Gaza to be safe, more importantly. I want to see safety for the people of Gaza. They've gone through hell.
In my opinion, it seems like President Trump felt confident he had the leverage after the bombing of Iran's nuclear facilities to pressure Israel into taking a deal with Hamas, even if they didn't feel totally comfortable with the details. The initial visit was very warm, with Bibi and his wife Sarah enjoying a private dinner with Trump's team in the White House. At the dinner, Bibi surprised Trump with a letter nominating him for a Nobel Peace Prize.
I want to present to you, Mr. President, the letter I sent to the Nobel Prize Committee. It's nominating you for the Peace Prize, which is well-deserved, and you should get it.
Thank you very much. This I didn't know. Wow. Thank you very much.
Bibi also surprised Trump with the gift of a mezuzah made from shrapnel from an Iranian missile that fell in Israel. They shaped it to look like a B-2 bomber. Then, after the pleasantries, the serious talks began. There on Monday evening, Netanyahu and Trump began hammering out the details of a ceasefire agreement. It seems like they were expecting to arrive at an agreement very quickly, as Steve Witkoff, the American envoy to the Middle East, was expecting to fly to Doha on Tuesday to present those terms to the Hamas negotiators. Senior Israeli officials said that in that meeting, negotiations on a hostage release and a ceasefire deal with Hamas were settled, at least on all the primary issues, although the core issue of bringing the war to an end was unresolved. Early Tuesday morning, a delegation of senior Qatari officials held talks with Steve Witkoff for 3 hours to discuss the hostage negotiations, according to reports. Then, the unplanned second meeting was announced for Tuesday morning with President Trump, Bibi, and Vice President J.D. Vance. Before the meeting, Trump said that he would be speaking with Netanyahu almost exclusively about the Gaza Strip. While the details of this meeting are highly secretive, what we do know is that Witkoff walked out of that meeting and canceled his flight to Doha, a clear signal that he had lost hope of making a deal that he could present this week. And Bibi and his team quietly slipped out of that meeting with little media coverage. This obviously is not what President Trump or his team were expecting, but yet there was no public firestorm in response like one would have expected, which leaves us to wonder what is actually going on. And we may have some insight here. We'll get into that in a second, but first, in this 12-day war that Israel just faced, over 500 ballistic missiles were fired into Israel, and there were 31 impacts in civilian areas, with 28 people killed and 3,000 injured. Israel just faced one of the most intense threats since its establishment. But through it all, Magen David Adom, which is Israel's volunteer ambulance service system, was on the front lines risking everything to save lives. And right now, they need your help to continue to do this effectively. With Israel's resources strained to the breaking point with the continued war, Magen David Adom needs more emergency vehicles, bandages, ventilators, defibrillators, trauma kits, and so much more to respond to everyday terror or missile attacks and all the other daily emergencies that are happening in Israel. People ask us what they can do to bless Israel during this ongoing 7-front war, and this is one of the best ways that you can do that. You can be a part of making sure Magen David Adom is equipped with everything that they need to save more lives in Israel. Go to savelivesinisrael.com to make a real difference today, or click the link in the description below. Despite the secrecy, Bibi did say just a few words on camera to the Israeli public in the Blair House before he left. He said, "We're not letting up for a moment. And this is possible because of the military pressure exerted by our heroic soldiers. Unfortunately, this effort is extracting a painful price from us in the loss of our best sons. So what does all this mean? There are a couple of anonymous officials who have given us a few details. They say that the US is more optimistic about reaching a deal than the Egyptian or Qatari mediators are. And this might mean that the holdup is on the Arab side, not on the Israeli side, as many are proposing. This would explain why there wasn't a blow-up from the Trump team in Washington. I think they fully expected the Israelis to agree to everything proposed, and if they hadn't, I think Trump would have been pretty ticked. According to Witkoff, 3 of the 4 sticking points of the deal were resolved with the Arab negotiators. An anonymous official detailed these points for us. He said, the first point is Hamas's demand for guarantees of a permanent ceasefire at the end of the 60 days. Trump offered Hamas a verbal assurance that the ceasefire would remain in place after the 60 days, even if a more permanent agreement was not reached. The second point was Hamas's demand for aid to be surged into Gaza. This doesn't seem to be much of an issue, as the UN and other international groups can bring in as much aid as they want, and this really isn't in Israeli control. The third point is the terms of the Israeli hostages for Palestinian terrorist swap that would happen at the beginning of the deal. This also doesn't really seem to be much of a sticking point, as negotiators on both sides are confident they can work out a deal. The fourth point, and this one seems to be the one that is stalling the talks, is Hamas is demanding Israel fully withdraw from the Gaza Strip the minute the ceasefire begins. This, according to Israeli officials, is untenable. If Israel withdrew, then began the 60-day ceasefire, Hamas would stall the talks, then begin the process of a full rebuild of their forces, setting themselves up to repeat this entire war again in a few years. We know this because Hamas has done this over and over again. Israel's proposing that they remain in the Morag corridor in southern Gaza and there create a humanitarian city where civilians could be vetted before entering. Hamas quickly rejected this plan, which left the American and Israeli teams scrambling to assemble a new solution. I think overall, even though Israel has been able to do a lot of damage to Hamas's fighting capacity over the course of this war, it seems like Hamas isn't desperate enough yet to make a deal. They're still holding out for terms that would leave them in power, something that Bibi has been very clear cannot be allowed. Trump, on a number of occasions, has also been clear that he doesn't think Hamas should be allowed to stay in power in Gaza. And I think Hamas is hoping that the American and Israeli public will lose patience with the war and pressure their governments to give in to their demands. And they back this up with incessant propaganda that they film in Gaza. And then they send that propaganda directly to news networks in the United States and Europe, and then spread it all over social media. If you go to X and type in Pallywood, you'll get hundreds of videos of behind the scenes of them shooting these propaganda videos. You can see in this video here, a girl getting her makeup done for a shoot where she pretends to be a victim of an Israeli attack. You can also see a member of the press talking and laughing with her. Or in this video here of aid workers helping a child to get water for his family, except when they're done shooting the video, they take the water back. Or in this video here of clearly staged ambulances and wounded coming into a medical center in Gaza, you can see the lights and camera crew and the guys who are clearly directing this entire operation. And the list goes on and on. Again, go to X and type in Pallywood and you'll see hundreds of these videos. In my opinion, I think it would be best for Israel and for the world for Hamas to be completely removed from power, no matter what it takes, no matter how long it takes. I think that we should pray for world leaders inside of Israel and outside of Israel to have the patience to do what it takes to completely remove Hamas and to not give in to pressure to cut a deal that is too hasty, one that would leave Hamas in power. Guys, if you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and share it with a friend. Let us know what you think down in the comments below. As always, thanks for watching.